When did 12 Years a Slave come out? 2013, 14,
Yeah, something like that.
13, I think.
13 or 14?
At least 3 years ago.
Well, it's almost 2017. So
I think it sounds
you don't
about
really.
right.
Okay.
I just realized I smell cannabis. I'm sorry.
Smell it as well.
It just came across my nose.
Right through the window. So 12 Years a Slave made me feel some kind of way, but I'm really excited to watch.
So the
Birth of a
context of us discussing 12 Years a Slave is
Birth
because
of a Nation.
Birth of a Nation drops tonight.
Yeah.
So shout out to Nate Parker for the womanists in the room. They might not be fans of him because there are allegations or not allegations. He actually lost that lawsuit of
I thought it was dropped.
raping.
What do you mean lost?
She committed suicide.
So how's that losing?
Yeah,
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I mean,
the charges were dropped, and then she committed suicide. And Gabrielle Union has been very vocal
Wait,
about
what's
that.
Gabby said? Because I know what a lot of other people have said.
Gabby was sexually
But black
assaulted when
feminists,
she was
aka
younger.
womanists.
No,
Oh yeah, she was raped when she was working in a department store.
yeah.
When she was
So
younger.
she's been bringing it up in the context that she essentially isn't going to overlook the fact that Nate Parker assaulted this woman and then she committed. So her whole thing is okay, the charges were dropped, he wasn't convicted, but then a couple years later she killed herself. So people overlook what the aggressor does in the situation.
For those who are not as familiar, Nate Parker, who has acted in a lot of movies,
he was in The Great Debaters. He was in
That's about it.
He was in Great Debaters. He was in the movie with Love and Hip Hop. Not Love and Hip Hop. Love and Basketball. What was it called? The chick who created the Love and Basketball movie. He was a security guard / police officer. He fell in love with the woman who was singing. Help me out.
What the fuck are you talking?
Yo, it's a movie. Don't try and shade. Yo,
Hold on, dog.
D,
What
you
movie is
shade
this?
me.
Beyond
every
the Lights?
fucking- Beyond. So now you know the goddamn name.
Because I'm on Google.
Even
And
though
nobody
you're over here
saw
trying
that
to act
shit.
No, yo, Beyond the Lights is actually a really good movie. Don't shade it.
Anyway, he was in The Great Debaters, Red Tail,
he was
Secret
in,
Life of Bees. You know that
Spike
nigga
Lee
from
joint
those movies.
about Red Hook. He's
Yes,
been in a
Red
lot of
Hook
movies.
Summer.
In Red Hook Summer.
Yeah, he was in Red Hook
Yeah.
Summer. He was a main character.
Anyway.
Spike Lee played who got raped by a pastor at the church. Anyway, so
What's he?
yeah, he was raped by the dude. That's ironic.
Okay,
Actually, I didn't
all
think
right.
about
So
that.
he's 30.
Men don't like to
He's
hear
in
rape.
He's in his late 30s. He's in this movie.
Nate Parker is definitely a visionary. He wanted to make sure that a story was told about
Nat Turner.
There's but also let's put it in context. No one in the room has watched the movie, right? Yet, but there has been commentary about his personal life, and a lot of people say that it's been distracting people from Nat Turner and his story and things like that. And I also got a full read from it was the New Yorker, I believe it was the New Yorker that wrote just read him and the full movie and how it's trying to be a sympathizer with white people and white masters and stuff like that. But I have not personally watched it to give my own
Right.
feedback.
So
I'd like to hear about what y'all think about Nate as a person.
Well, let's give a little context a little bit more. So Nate Parker plays Nat Turner, who was an enslaved African American who led a rebellion in Virginia in the 1830s, and it resulted in the deaths of a lot of white people, and it was a very pivotal moment in Black history. So,
did y'all learn about Nat Turner in school?
I can't remember.
I can't remember if I did.
Heavens, no.
Yeah.
But we read about him when
Same here.
you read. You know what I'm saying? When you figure
Word.
out what's going on. And slave revolts are not new. There's been a few, but they go unreported because that's not convenient to the narrative that America would like to tell.
You came out the box heavy,
love
just
it.
all of that.
I'm
You
here
were
for all of it.
came out
It's
guns
like,
blazing.
Black subservience is a much better narrative than we were really out here not playing around.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So I don't think we learned about him in school, but I remember reading books. My parents gave me the black versions of stuff, or the black books. So I remember reading about Crispus Attucks and Nat Turner and all these people way early in the day. But I think this will be a very historical moment for people who have only been exposed to the narrative that Jonathan just referenced, which is the subservient black person who didn't really do anything but say yes, massa, so to speak.
Being raised in the South and learning Georgia, you took Georgia history in school.
Yeah.
You were in Georgia history. We took Georgia
That was
history.
a class?
Yeah, so wherever you're
Eighth
from,
grade history class.
Eighth grade, it was eighth grade history class. You have to take the history of the state that you're presently in. So I don't know if you took like New Jersey history,
Right.
but we definitely learned about like, you know, the Confederacy. And from my memory, all I remember is like it was this very like beautiful version of like this antebellum period of like Gone with the Wind, and we had unfortunately lost the war, but it's okay because we were still able to have pride in the South. And you know, and I grew up next to like white folks who had a Confederate flag, and it was more of a nostalgia type of thing.
Yeah.
Not till I was older and conscious that I was like, oh, that Confederate flag over there, that shit is racist and condescending as fuck to anybody who is of color and stands for something of like justice, you know?
Right.
But when you're raised around that, that's all you know. You know what I'm saying? So like did you go to the Cyclorama when you were like in
All
school?
the time. Yeah.
So Cyclorama is actually a Confederate museum
A Confederate.
around the Civil War.
Yeah, you know, I don't think you get it. You don't get it because you didn't grow up in the South.
Yeah.
About
I grew up in
what
Jersey.
it's-
For y'all who don't know, like,
Yeah.
I grew up in straight up suburbia Jersey, where we did not have any semblance of black culture or like Confederacy.
Nah, you're a
references.
Yankee. So when you grow up in a place that does not, you know, embrace Yankees, you get
Right.
this. We go
Right.
to Confederate Museum
You go to Confederate Museum,
as a black
Jesus.
children.
Yeah, exactly, and it's all good.
So how do you feel about underground then? Do you feel like that's like, I love underground for the authentic nature, I guess, but it's, you know, based in Georgia, and
I don't want to get too off topic, but I love underground because it's like a Game of Thrones of like slavery. Not to like make it sound any kind of weird or anything like that, but it definitely puts a spin on things. But let's go back to Birth of a Nation and Nat Turner and Nate Parker.
it doesn't help that their names are similar.
I know I keep
It
getting
really
like tongue tied.
doesn't.
All right, Nate Parker. Everyone is familiar with what happened when he was in college.
Yeah.
He is alleged to have been part of a group of guys who he was on. What was he playing? What sport was he playing?
He was a wrestler.
He was a wrestler, and you know, some guys on the wrestling team were accused of raping a girl in college.
Right. And the charges were dropped, right?
He actually confessed to something. He actually confessed to the fact that
confessed
he
to-
didn't know what was the term that they use? Consensual.
Oh, right. This whole
Was.
nature of like, he didn't really have like
Like
he
she's
was
unconscious. I didn't know that she wasn't willing.
I didn't know
read
that
part.
consent would mattered essentially.
I didn't get that part when I read it.
Okay.
Well, it just goes down to the point that like she committed suicide in 2012, and so everybody's sort of reevaluating that scenario based on the fact that, you know, why would she commit suicide if she wasn't assaulted by these people who weren't convicted and now are playing these roles that are like, you know, for the advancement of people of color and are supposedly like presenting in movies in a different way than they are in their personal lives, which I think is true for like a majority of people who act, but that's neither here nor there. I'm still going to go see the movie, obviously. I think there is something to be said for whatever he was accused of. And we'll never know what we don't know. You know, we weren't there. But I think we constantly just sort of overlook the accuser. Like, the man becomes... he's the victim because we're accusing him almost. And for him to default to, I didn't know, or I wasn't sure, or I didn't do it, or whatever, like, this is not something to be taken lightly, I guess, in my opinion. We can still have the conversation of the movie, but also about his personal life.
I don't know. I be judging.
Do you?
You judging what though? Is he?
It's just like
guilty
when
in
you
your
know
eyes?
someone's personal life.
Do you
But
know
do
it?
you
It will
know his
change-
personal life?
Right.
We don't. We only know what like the court of public opinion will tell us.
Exactly. You know what the court of public opinion and all it takes. Look, I'm not defending a rapist. Point blank, period. I don't know what the fuck happened. Period. But I do know that if you are accused of rape, you are guilty in the court of public opinion.
This is the
until proven innocent.
Right.
It's not innocent until proven guilty. And I think that's Nate Parker's point of view. And what he's saying is that this thing happened when he was in college, which is horrific. If she was actually raped, if that's actually true, that's horrific. And then she commits suicide, and people are saying, "Well, it must be because she was raped." The fuck. It could be a million things.
Right.
That girl, I mean, clearly she's a troubled lady if she's committing suicide. Like, it's a million things. You can't automatically draw that line to that thing that happened in college.
All right,
Now,
true.
once again, I don't know the fucking facts, so I'm in the middle of it.
You're giving your outside opinion based on what
Yeah.
you know. I hear you. I'm interested though, see, because you said that you're judging, but you are a stand-up fan of R. Kelly, and we've argued.
We
about
going
this.
there?
If you want to, honey, because
I
you've
mean,
argued
I
about
am-
you've
I am-
argued in favor of R. Kelly, and I'm like, how are you
We talked
judging
about
it?
we did okay. So let me lay out the facts. We talked about R. Kelly previously, and it was about the
We
fact
didn't
that-
air this because it got so heated that it didn't make any sense.
I mean, I thought it was cool, but that's
It was
you
too
know,
much.
that. But we talked about R. Kelly previously, and it was the fact that, like, of course, he has been in court for sleeping with a minor, and everyone remembers that infamous sex tape that I was in fucking middle school when that came out. I was like, 01? That was like 01 where the fucking VHS came out and he was peeing on that girl who they found out later was a minor. And he dated Aaliyah, which didn't really add to the credibility because she was a minor when he was dating her. So we all know R. Kelly is extremely uber talented in the musical field, but he might have some like kind of creep, fetish ways when it comes to like young women. These are things that are facts, right? I personally separate the two. R. Kelly has jams, but at the same time, it's like, I
wish I
only
could see Jonathan's face.
I go according to this, right? It's a toss up, right? As I actually like say this out loud, I'm like, don't say those things. Don't say those things out loud. But at the same time, it's almost like keep laughing at myself. It's R. Kelly, so there is some nostalgia there because I feel like a lot of us grew up with him, and a lot of us like, I can't tell you when TP3 came out, like,
So that makes it.
But at the same time, it's like if he did do these things, I don't condone them. Although, you have a person like I don't know.
You have a butt clause in your defense of R. Kelly, which kills me because then you're sitting here telling me you're judging Nate Parker. That's all I'm saying, and I hear you. Like,
but
I hear your nostalgia,
this is the difference. This is the difference, right?
Tell me the difference.
There's a girl who he's a creep. He's dealing with somebody who is young and doesn't know better, and it's consensual.
Does that make it right because it was
AKA Aaliyah.
Wait.
AKA Aaliyah.
He doesn't
Then
know
you have a
better,
person,
and it's consensual, so that makes it justifiable.
I don't justify it. Then you have a woman who says that she was sexually assaulted and raped, and she has trauma. I'm not justifying it, but I'm saying that these are the differences in the narrative according to Nate Parker and R. Kelly, and I'm not trying to compare them or justify them. I'm just saying the difference in narrative. Now, if there was a girl coming out saying R. Kelly has abused me, mistreated me, I have trauma and I was raped and I am going to court to sue him, that is something different that has not come out in media. If it happened, that is something that I will address, and I will say that no, I do not support that. But in this current narrative, Nate Parker has a woman who says that I was raped by a team of wrestlers. These things happen. I am not the same. And matter of fact, years down the road, when this story is like kind of null and void, she actually committed suicide. That is something different.
Okay.
Now, granted, I don't agree with anybody creeping on a fucking teenager. No.
Okay, I hear you, Jonathan. What you think? Because you've been sitting over there, you got a lot to say.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is tough, right? So for me, this is a story that goes, generally speaking, rape goes unreported. Rape victims go defended, and quite frankly, like if you look at the actual like allegations versus prosecutions, it's grossly disproportionate. So it's very serious. Now, that is to say that there are instances in which, again, like the court of public opinion, generally, not speaking about rape specifically, but like anything, is one in which if you own it, you're good, depending on what you want that story to be. Like if you can create the right story in the court of public opinion,
right,
you can become bulletproof even when you are not.
AKA OJ.
Right.
AKA OJ.
Yeah, like that's like quintessential, right? In this scenario, I think it is something that, one, cannot be overlooked, and two, I would say it is not being overlooked. I don't think this is like going away. I think this is something that is being discussed. It's being talked about. It's being critiqued. You got one of the stars of the film being like, I'm not good with this. This is a problem. But I think it harks back to a real issue, which is that like having this conversation is part of a larger macro conversation, which is around the people we believe who do things when they have things in their life that we see as reprehensible and that have consequences attached to them. How do we deal with that and then deal with the thing they have made, which is actually doing something good for the culture that we need?
Perfect example of Bill Cosby. Go on.
Right. The other thing I think about is I bring up the example of Chris Brown a lot too. When we talk about entertainers, right? Like, that's fundamentally cut and dry. Like,
He's an amazing performer.
but like Rihanna did not run into a bunch of furniture.
She did not.
So I think like no, I want to
I'm
be
sorry,
clear about
it's
that.
not funny, but it's just the way you said.
Like because that's the way, like, and what's funny is like Chris Brown's fans, which a lot of which are comprised of women. When that came out, like, it wasn't as if the defense was like vehemently men. Like, that to me was the other part of that, was like you had women being like, no, this isn't Chris. Like, what about all the facts? And I'm like, she couldn't open her left eye.
That's a fact.
Well, what facts? She could not see.
Yeah.
She was beaten. Like,
Those pictures of Rihanna cannot be taken back.
So
those cannot be forgotten.
And I think that's something we struggle with, like, communally, is to be like, yo, like, we also are susceptible to the same things and the same issues and the same things that are happening broadly, but we cannot pretend like they're not real, and we can't pretend like they don't have irrevocable consequences on the people that are involved in them. Whether or not the art they make is legendary is immaterial to the idea that somebody's life could be traumatized and that they could never recover from that, and that they are going to be that person. Now, that is not to say Rihanna has not been who she's going to be, but like, that is a part of her life.
Yeah.
And that is a part of everybody's consciousness, and a lot of people will grow up knowing that, like, that was a very singular incident in their relationship.
I agree, and I think we have a lot of that in our culture. I mean, we've grown up with the R. Kellys, the Chris Browns, the Bill Cosbys, the Michael Jacksons, like, people who have these stories around them, but have also been these incredibly impactful people on our culture, and we struggle to go between their personal lives and what they've done for the quote the masses. So
Yeah.
you gotta, in my opinion, you have to go see the movie, because the movie represents something completely different, and it's a historical moment that we need to be involved in. But we also need to recognize and acknowledge whatever is going to happen on Nate Parker's, like, personal side and whatever it is that he's done.
Have you heard anything about the movie so far?
No.
I read one review where one girl was, or whoever wrote it was, I think you sent it to me.
Yeah.
The one.
Was it in group text?
Yeah, the one where she was like, I'm done with slave movies. Like, I'm done. We don't need to see this.
She is an editor. She's a great writer, and I usually don't see her this opinionated, but she went off. Go ahead. She went. When I saw her critique, I was like, this is a person. Imagine there's someone you respect their opinion, and you know that they have great insight. So when she said this stuff, I was like, wait, what? She started off her rant with, I know for a fact that Nate Parker did rape that girl, but I still went to go see Birth of a Nation. And she said, I had a lot of I went in with an open mind, but I came out with this apologetic stance from like, there's such great, good white people who empathize with the way that slaves were treated, as opposed to like Nate Parker or Nat Turner actually like was out here rebelling and doing something extraordinary for a person who was able to read and write as a slave, and basically galvanize all of these slaves and rebel against their masters. You know what I'm saying? They said that part of the movie was very minimal versus showing like white people being the people who kind of help them, get to this place and basically rebel and empathize with the slave movement. Yeah. So she went off. She said a whole lot more.
She starts it with, I think that's the last slave movie
it.
for me. I think America has a lot of reconciling to do with slavery. Still waiting on my reparations. I think white people need to see all the slave movies so they never forget the horror it was for my people. But for us, nope. I think it's psychologically damaging to constantly see ourselves brutalized, beaten down, enslaved, and killed. How much more do we need to see? Our ancestors' bloods run through our veins. We know what it is. And it just goes on from there.
Do you agree with her? Do you agree with what she's saying as far as...
Nah, if it's a factual... The thing is, like, if it's, quote, based on a true story. So 12 Years a Slave was based on a true story. This movie based on a true story. If it's something that's telling me something about my history that I more than likely didn't learn in school, something that I either researched on my own or just happened to come across or whatever, I'm absolutely going to go and try and identify with it. Now, if it ain't shit, I might be the first one to say that. But if it tells me something about my history on screen... I don't see why I wouldn't initially support that. Now, she sees the movie and interprets it in one way. Hey, this ain't for me. Like, I'm done with the slave movies. I'm done with this. Like, I'm done with white people. I'm done. I need reparations, and that's it. She's entitled to that opinion. But I don't think that we should come out the gate counting things out like that, because white people have little insight to this. Like, regardless, even if a white person produces the movie, they literally don't have a stream of consciousness about somebody like Nat Turner or rebellions and slavery, for that matter. Like, white people seriously think that the only like people that ever rebelled against white people were Malcolm X and Martin Luther King. So
or the Israelites.
Yeah. Okay. So if there, thank you. So if there's like some movie or some outlet that tells them, here's another piece of quote Black history, but really American history, I'm at least down to let that prosper and let people go and watch that. Even if they come out of that feeling good, they might also take away from that, hey, there was this black person that had to rebel and like white people were killed, and another white person helped a black person. Maybe I can fucking do that. Like, there's got to be something tangible for them that they can take away from some of these movies. Like, even if the white person is the hero, they're a hero because they helped somebody. Like, they're a hero because they saved a black life. They're a hero because they empathize with whatever the situation was, and so we can take something from that and they can learn something from that. That's where I'm at.
Well, let me ask you a question. How do you feel about all of this coming out about what's my man Nate Parker around the time that Birth of a Nation was released? Because I don't.
It's been out.
Yeah, but how do you feel about it flaring up now? Because
it's convenient.
Yeah, that's all.
It wasn't
a distraction.
I didn't hear about this when Great Debaters came out,
or anything else,
or anything.
What that other movie that you were trying to?
But granted, this is just some people accusing them like, "Oh, you're trying to keep the black man down." As soon as the black man comes with like something about our history, yada yada.
Nate Parker been around forever,
like,
so
well, not Nate Parker, but this movie in general, and the fact that he made this movie. And from what I understand, he sacrificed everything and worked on this movie since he made The Great Debaters, so like for the last 5 or 6 years.
Yeah, it was like up to 8 years.
This is like
that can't be true because he was in Beyond the Lights like 3 years ago.
No, but he's been working on a passion project.
Oh,
yeah, like he put everything in this. Like, hasn't been in the movies, hasn't sat on the roles. Like, came up, and I'm not sure about the funding and stuff.
I give him
like
kudos.
That,
no one else has the balls, I think, to actually create this type of movie and to share our narrative.
I think we have to see it first before we make that opinion. Yeah. I mean, I hear you, but we don't know what it is yet.
Right. I still give him kudos. Who else is doing it right now? Is funding a slave movie. No,
Jonathan, how you feel, man?
I mean, I don't know, man. I think a lot of this is like, for me, I think about what we don't know versus what we see. So for me, I know that Will Smith and Jay-Z are producing the Emmett Till story, right?
Yeah.
So that's going to be a big deal. And I just learned today that Jay-Z just got a deal with Weinstein Company to do the Khalif Browder movie. So I think we're going to see more of these things. And I think it's important to talk about the narrative of tragedy versus triumph and how we are often portrayed. But I think on the flip side to that critique, which is valid, we do have a lot of that. We have Queen Sugar. We have Insecure. We have Blackish. However you feel about that, we are getting more. It's not nearly enough. It's not nearly as engaging, but like, we do have Shonda telling stories about black women doing whatever they feel like in their careers. Like, we do have Jesse Williams out here making sure, regardless of your hue, you are woke as can be. Like, there are people doing that work. And I think, again, this is a movie that takes up space. So I think it's important to realize, like, a story like this captures the imagination because this is a slave revolt. This means there are black people killing white people on film at a time when we are being killed on film.
Yeah.
And that is a juxtaposition, and it is frightening because that is a history in which people are like, no, like, we can't have this. Like, it will. I think the subtext of this is like, it will incite violence, which says a lot about how people believe we can psychologically navigate things. Like, be very aware of the other critiques that come from people who believe that somehow you could watch Black Hawk Down and not want to purchase a handgun and fly to the Middle East, but
Right.
somehow you
And
would
defeat
watch
that ISIS.
somehow you would watch Nate Parker and pick up a machete and run through your office. Like, that has less to do with whether or not those things are plausible,
Yeah, that's
more
real.
to do with more to do with the belief of how black people are valued in this country. Now, I think that's important. I think also, like, it is an interesting environment in which, like, again, like, this is a narrative that it really happened, and there are multiples, and these are stories that we don't get to tell from our perspective more often than not. And whether or not, I think you can't necessarily, because they're intertangled. So Nate Parker's past has a very deep importance on this the history and the success of this film, because he is the director. So at any time you're going to get your life invaded when you decide to make something creative.
Right.
Everybody puts themselves out
granted.
there. It's part of the game. You're going to get vetted. There's no way you don't. But I would say you got somebody like Vin Diesel who's trying to make a Hannibal the Great movie, right? Like Hannibal, the guy who crossed the Alps with elephants. That guy was in fact black, friends. He was a Moor. So, like, there are these things that are happening, and they're coming, and they're bubbling, and I think it's indicative that we should absolutely critique people. We should absolutely press them. We should absolutely look into people's backgrounds and be like, hey, like, did this happen? Like, this is serious. We cannot ignore this. This is important. This matters. But I also think that we are in a space where, like, you're seeing more people take control of their narratives and not have to worry about whether or not a major studio catches on. Birth of a Nation was the largest acquisition from a Sundance filming ever.
Wow.
He did $17 million.
Oh yeah, yeah.
They bought that outright for 17 M's. That is not to be taken lightly, and neither is this conversation about Nate Parker and this scenario with this woman who took her own life because of the trauma she was under. But I think these are conversations that I believe are important, and I am actually thankful they're taking place, because it, one, shows that we can have a critical dialogue about a film and a critical dialogue about a person, and that there can be discourse there, because the consistent narrative about us is that, like, we can only do one thing,
Right.
and that we can only fight amongst ourselves, and we cannot possibly critique and also hold people accountable.
Right.
Like, we've always done that. And now it's happening at a public stage. And think about the stage in which this is happening. Like, everybody is, like, Vanity Fair is writing about this, Wall Street Journal. Like, there's not a news outlet in America that is not talking about this film.
I agree.
Yeah. A lot of people have tuned in, and all media.
All news is good news, right? Whether it's bad
It's just
or
like,
not.
black people run culture.
Don't have me started on
right,
that.
because we
We
could
are,
go.
like, we are
We're
the
the
culture.
elements
It's
of cool.
late.
Yeah, I'm saying, like,
Did you see the kid today? The kid who dressed up as a white kid, dressed up as a thief and went to school and said, "I'm dressed up as a thief because white people steal everything."
So apparently, there's Culture Day at this school. And so people are wearing, like, you know, African garb, or they're wearing traditional, like, Caribbean garb, all this good stuff. And so a white kid was like, you know what am I going to dress like? So he dressed like a cat burglar, wearing,
Wow.
like, all black.
With the black skull
And
cap
then
and everything.
he tweeted, he said, I'm dressed as a burglar because white people steal everyone else's culture.
I get it because
tough.
right because
BuzzFeed tweeted, or posted an article that basically said this kid is being applauded for his hilarious Culture Day outfit. And don't get me wrong, I'm happy to see that something like this is like, all right, I'm glad you acknowledged it, but you ain't about to get applauded for the fact that your people been over here oppressing us for years, and you are the one to point it out.
I just think it goes back to the skit with Chris Rock, and he's like, I love black people, but I hate niggas. He's like, the difference between black people and niggas is like, niggas always want credit for shit you supposed to do. And he's like, you know, niggas will say, I take care of my kids. And he's like, you dumbass, like, you supposed to take care of your kids. It's the same principle. Oh, you're finally opposing oppression? Like, congratulations, but you don't get a medal for that because that's just been happening for mad long. You don't get a medal, that's all.
Last thing, anything else that's pressing on anyone else's minds?
Oh, Lord.
As far as topics.
Yes, there's so many things.
I've had a good time today.
I've had a great time. That bottle, you know.
The cuffing season kind of like took us through a loop.
We did, though.
On this last
Everybody just
episode.
got
People
tired.
have to go home and listen to Tank. Please don't go. Like, you're like really going through it.
Yo, I don't know what it is about like.
I'm literally about to
cool
go home and
weather
listen
when
to 8701 right now, just like on some, like, I just need.
when the weather changes, yo, people just get a different kind of like, you know, mojo.
Everything, man. The wine. I'm going to say, the wine means more.
Right.
You be out here dancing Rihanna, it's like serious. Like, you're like married.
Yeah.
Like, it's different after.
Okay, I would love male perspective on this real quick. So when like the weather changes, starts getting cool, what goes through your mind? Like what goes through your mind? Like, hey, summer's here. I've had a great time. It was cool.
Yeah.
What goes through your mind once the weather changes and the season started? Go
What's my
ahead.
team looking like?
Is there strategy or is it like, you know,
It's like, hey,
I got about 3 in the roster.
3 that I want to keep.
3? Okay.
gotta weigh your options,
Any more?
essentially.
Any more? Or any less? No.
He's talking trash.
No, about 2 to 3, man. You can't keep any more than that.
Yeah, I feel like for me, I'm like, I really gotta chill. Like, I can't be outside. Like,
Yes.
I really become a hermit. Like, I'm like, let me get this. I'm about to just do these 2-a-days. I'm about to wake up, do 50 in a clip, and just continue to grow personally. Try not to get carded R-rated movies because I have no facial hair, and just generally,
I'm done.
And R-rated
try to be my
movies.
best self. But yeah, I think the weather, like, I think it's funny because you walk outside and like you you start to see people differently. Like, you
Yes.
walk outside and you're like,
That can't. I wish sometimes that this is a video so you can
This
see.
is so true.
wow.
People
You're
say,
like, wow. Like, and I think you could literally be wearing basic outfits, but you're like, it's New York, man. Like, I'm not going to even lie to y'all. Like, when I see one in Tim's out here, I'm like, wait.
Hey, that is something, dog.
He sat
That
up.
is
Really?
something.
I'm so dead.
Tell us more.
Y'all wild.
Wintertime is Tim's, and the summertime is just Jay's. Like,
Yeah, I be out here. I be out here. If I'm not gonna lie to you. A one with a sneaker game is different.
Yeah, it really is.
It's different.
You bring a new. It's like you got something under there that I don't even know about. Like in our when we hibernate together in the wintertime, you gonna bring something different to the
I'm
table.
literally
dog. You
gonna-
got a
Well,
whole
We eating
nother
hot
level.
food in the crib, watching Netflix and
Right,
and cooling and kicking it
just
for the
like
whole
little
winter.
shit. Like I might be watching basketball, and you might be making relevant comments over there. Like,
I'm not
Yo,
gonna front.
Mac, you gotta go.
said
This nigga
relevant
said
content.
relevant.
I know homegirls that have a better that are like legitimate football fans that like know more about Sunday than I
Oh,
ever
yeah.
will. It's
all
also like, and they literally pay for like game day. They're like,
Oh, yeah.
did you see the
They got
stat line?
NFL Sunday ticket and everything. They
Fam,
got
like,
3
I haven't
fantasy
watched it. Like,
pools.
bro, they're like,
I'm only in one fantasy
and it's
pool.
different. And you're like, I really like this. I really enjoy. Hey, you know what? Yes. Yep. Be
He's
blessed.
stupid. He's stupid.
You better. Yep.
yeah. But as far as living in such a diverse place, it's just amazing the different people you meet here, unlike any other place.
I agree with that.
Yeah.
New York has opened up my.
You just really never know out here. And I think also, like, the deeper you get into the fall, the more like pressing people want the like functions to be. So you show up and like now you only really got like 4 or 5 left. You got like something this weekend. You got like the Halloween one where people like really dress up as like Cisco and like still go home with somebody even though they had the goggles on. And then you got like a Thanksgiving joint that people make up right before you go home. They're like, yo, it's Thanksgiving Day, we're gonna play football, but then we also gonna have fun. And then you got like New Year's, which people start promoting right after Thanksgiving. Like the New Year's flyer comes out right after you finish your mom's mac and cheese, and they're like, "Is you coming? It's gonna be the illest ever." You remember what happened last year? Bottles. What's the forecast? More bottles. You're like, "Yo, I've done this year after year," but like, you never really know what it's gonna be. And I feel like in New York, people opt into that even if you know what it's already gonna be.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? You're like, I'm
exactly
trying,
what it's
and
gonna
everyone's
be.
like, I'm trying to keep it in the crib this year. And then you go in the group me. Group me's like, are we popping? Where's we going? You're like, nah, I'm not chilling. Like, yeah, right. We gonna see you. And then like mid-December, you're like, you know what I'm saying? I don't really have anything going on. Like, all right, bro, go find a fit. You coming out with us.